Wow. You know, it's another day in paradise. It's under 80 degrees in South Florida. I got a sweatshirt on, and I'm starting to look like David hailing from the north. You know, need to stay warm. Can't stay warm down here anymore. Gonna have to, get heavy sweaters. David, send me one. It's Monday noon in the Eastern time zone, and there's still ripples flying in the ocean between North America, the rest of Western Europe and the world, and a little tiny place that's had lots of conflict with the British government in years past called Ireland, a haven for tech billionaire companies, tax shieldings, amongst many other very interesting political positions in years past. And, Michael Higgins, not normally a major person in the world news with contrarian views until this Sunday, where I think the media, again, has forgotten to bring up news. David and I have been doing this for nearly 5 years next month. And, it's going on 5th year. It's like nearly 5 years. And, I don't think we've ever talked about Ireland. I think rarely we've even mentioned this country ever. So it's a first for us. But it's not about Donald J. Trump. It's not about the Bidens or the Harrises. It's about Ireland and the stupidity of some of the leaders. Welcome to the Rant Network, as this is an unfiltered, unapologetic discussion between David and I about some world events. We tackle a wide range of topics, candid conversation, bold opinions, whether it's breaking down the latest headlines or exploring pop culture, debating politics, or delving into complexities of modern life. This is a platform for every perspective. Grab a seat, settle in, and join us on this journey as a thought-provoking rant begins. David, this is no joking matter. And, typically, I like to be a little more playful than David, and David likes to be more playful on picking on me, but I think today is a little different. In the green room, David, reminded me that it is the anniversary of the Holocaust. And on its eve, the desecration of the concept that 6 million Jews, 22 million people died as a result of some crazy individuals that were called Nazis, and the world turned a blind eye for nearly half a decade. But the comparison of one genocide to another genocide, or a genocide to a conflict in response to an act of war, is just mind-bogglingly insane. And David, I am, like you, deeply and utterly annoyed. David, would you like to get into the weeds on our wonderful, illustrious Ireland?
No, I don't want to talk about Ireland because they're gross. That's not the point of this rant today, ladies and gentlemen. The point of the rant today is that we are 80 years since the end of the Holocaust, 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. Now, Stuart says that he likes to kid and joke, but on this topic, I can't. I went to these concentration camps in Poland, Auschwitz, Birkenau, and a few others. And unfortunately, when you go to Auschwitz today, you would say it looks like a museum, because that's really what they've done. They put the countless shoes that they've collected behind glass, suitcases behind glass, the barbed wire. It looks like and touches like a museum. And so you would say to yourself, wow. And on top of it all, the Polish government has decided that Auschwitz is not a Jewish concentration camp, but it's an international one, because not only Jews were killed, and it's managed by the Polish government. And so when you go to Auschwitz, you don't get it. But when you go to the sister side of it, what used to be called Auschwitz II or Birkenau, and you walk and you see what was there, it's less of a museum and more of a reality. But Stuart, what was different for me, my wife, and the full busload of Montrealers who went at the time back 2 summers ago was we went with a now unfortunately recently deceased Holocaust survivor named Yosef Lefkowitz. Yosef Lefkowitz, passed away only a couple of weeks ago. Survivor of 6 different concentration camps, Stuart. Walked with us in Auschwitz and pointed at the picture and said, "That's me in the picture." And when you hear his stories of what he went through, the museum disappears, but the stories are just epic is not right, but horrifying. The world doesn't understand the depth of the hate, what the Nazis have brandished all across Europe. Taking Jews from Europe, Asia, all over Europe, into Poland, Germany, into concentration camps with the absolute purpose and goal of eradicating the entire Jewish race. That was Judenreich. That was the idea. And over 6 years, governments refused to help the Jews. When FDR had a chance to drop a bomb on Auschwitz, he said, no, it's for the war effort. When you look back, Stuart, you talk to Holocaust survivors, and my wife goes every Tuesday and she sits with Holocaust survivors here in Montreal and talks to them about their stories. It's frightening what they went through. The depth of their horror, we don't have enough time in this rant to go through. So on this day, it's very hard for me, having gone to these concentration camps, spoken to survivors, listened to stories. I can't make a joke of it. But I'm sickened today by the president, as you said, of Ireland, Michael Higgins, who decided that instead of honoring the lives of those who died, he wanted to remind the whole world about Gaza, because Ireland is ripe with harsh anti-Semitism. It's the new Germany, people. Can't go around there without hearing about anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is the norm. Anti-Semitism is good. No problem, from the president on down. Now, I'm not saying they're doing concentration camps. I'm not saying there's propaganda police. I'm not saying there's the SS. But it's the same thing as the 1930s Germany. Jews, vilification of Jews, of Israel, cool, no problem. And that's how it started in the 1930s. In fact, it started even before that, but it really started in the 1930s like that. Cheap shots like that are so common. Holocaust deniers, Stuart, have been around for decades, right? They made a joke about Schindler's List, the movie. Oh, look, it's Hollywood. It doesn't exist. None of it existed. I met one of Oscar Schindler's survivors, by the way, Stuart. So it was a true story. It isn't some fiction. What's pissing me off, Stuart, is that the education system has abandoned an entire generation of people who should have learned about this. Because when you start talking about words like genocide, which has been properly defined since the Holocaust, we've had too many genocides, real genocides. And we still have genocides in Africa, in Sudan, in other parts of Africa, where they're literally gathering people up to kill them. That's a genocide, people. What President Michael Higgins did was absolutely lie to an entire nation. There's no genocide in Gaza. Sorry, there's no genocide. By every definition, there's no genocide. But how dare he desecrate the memory of those who died at the hands of the Nazis, the communists, the Ukrainians? How dare he go out and really compare the political movement of the Nazis, the decision to eradicate an entire race globally, to what Stuart said was an attack on October the 7th, the worst day on Jews since the Holocaust.
Well, and proportionally, to comparing it to September 11th.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, I'm going to give you something which will add some levity to it. The definition of Michael Higgins: ignorant, lacking knowledge and awareness in general, unsophisticated, and is basically, as a word to use, consistently ignorant or stupid. And David, my neighbor was a Holocaust survivor growing up in Montreal. Lived three doors down next to, trying to think who the house was. Renata. Renata's next door neighbor was a Holocaust survivor. Husband and wife, they had tattoos on their arms. They escaped Auschwitz. Okay. And so I grew up with stories on Saturdays and Sundays, and every year, the school used to have a group that used to go over to the house and hear them talk about stories that we used to get, I don't know, weekly, monthly, on a daily basis. It is sad, it's pathetic, it is disgusting. And I hope you like the levity of me giving the definition of Michael Higgins. I think I'm going to add it to Wikipedia as the definition so we can add some more levity to the world's stupid people. Hatred is something that's ran throughout history. Jealousy is run just equally as quickly from Adam and Eve going all the way to today. Whatever religion you follow, if it all begins in Judeo-Christian, it begins with Adam and Eve, and jealousy there began. The hatred is more of jealousy. I think people are just sort of jealous, and I think the Irish people that portray, Germanic Nazism like behavior are just ignorant. Right?
I think it's a cop out. Tell me ignorance is a cop out. It's an actual but sorry, I think it's not fair to real ignorance, because I think that the people in Ireland, in other places, you can't claim ignorance anymore, because you're consciously deciding that you're not going to educate the people with the truth. And it's the same thing that's happening in the United States today. It's the same thing that's happening in many parts of the West. When you go and you ask an average person today, what is the Holocaust? Way too many people don't know. You talk to kids today. I mean, Stuart, you and I both grew up in different education systems, but we knew what the Holocaust was.
No, we both were taught common sense. I guess the onset of DEI trying to make excuses for dumbass people isn't exactly going to fly.
It's not about DEI. But it predated DEI, Stuart. It predated all this wokeism.
DEI goes to the 60s, David. So it doesn't predate it. It's something that started at Harvard in the 60s. But again, David, we're not trying to talk about DEI. We're talking about the Holocaust. We're talking about, people that are Holocaust deniers. We're talking about people that are prejudiced or hostile towards Jewish people. We're talking about the ignorance of this Irish president, Michael Higgins, which goes far beyond it, because even to some school boards that are around in Montreal are continuing to propagate more hatred.
Not just Montreal. You got every school. Look at the school boards across the Western world. I've seen it in Toronto. I've seen it in New York, Chicago, others. That the education system has been seized by people who want to rewrite history, who want to talk more about racism, whether it's African American racism, whatever you want to go with it. And you know what? You can't rewrite history. Sorry.
No, you should not rewrite history. You should not. It's not, you shall not. And that is where the definition is now skewed. You shall not rewrite history is what the word and definition should be.
But it's fascinating to
a timeline based on facts, which is where the news has disappeared to as well. We've discussed this countless in the last 4 years.
Look, we're going to see it. We're going to see it today. Some idiot, some news broadcaster, some other politician, educators are going to go, well, the Jews had a genocide, but you know what? They're causing a genocide right now. And we're going to see that. And it's the distortion of fact, the distortion of history, and it's a complete unfair comparison. Stuart, I'm going to tell you just one thing. When you go into Auschwitz, okay, actually you go into Birkenau, not Auschwitz. When you go into Auschwitz and you go into the barracks where they were so-called sleeping. In the back of a barrack, and I would show this picture, you want to talk about how inhumane the Nazis treated the Jews. The reason they tattooed them with numbers was to get rid of their names. to simply erase their dignity. And then they went a step further. And if you look in the back, there were dozens and dozens of holes, almost like a bowl, built into concrete. And that's where Jews had to go pee and defecate. It was so demeaning and degrading what they did to them. And to sit here today and to say, well, that's what Israel's doing to Gaza. You can't do that, people. Wake up, open your eyes. That's not even close. It's not even a fair comparison.
Well, I mean, David, it's ridiculous to even make this comparison, and any moron that does is just literally definitely.
But this is what we're dealing with. And the
David,
Michael Higgins of the world.
What the Jews and the Israelis have done to Gaza is in response to this bloodshed and massacre. It's no different than the United States dropping bombs on Vietnam or dropping bombs
or Afghanistan or Iraq or any of these things. But this, Stuart, and on this I'll wrap up. 6 million perished, over 1 million children. You know, you talk about women and children in Gaza. You're talking about millions of women, seniors, children were perished because they were Jewish or had some lineage of being Jewish. That was it. That was it. And to those who think that that's not utter racism and genocide, then you know what? You don't deserve any recognition. And Michael Higgins, the president of Ireland, I hope one day you need a Jewish doctor. I hope one day you need Israel for something. God help you.
Well, listen, David, they all do, and that includes Africa, and they still go to United Nations or the joke of nations and vote us down. Anyways, that brings this to a close. Another episode of the Rat Network. Truly appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Your support and your engagement means everything. We continue to foster an open, honest, thought-provoking conversation. Don't forget, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Catch us any day, 24/7, 365 on any of your local podcasts, YouTube, or social media channels. Stay connected with us through your social media channel. Let us know your thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like to hear us discuss. Your feedback shapes our community and keeps the conversation alive, something that the media just doesn't want you to do. Thank you once again for joining us. Until next time, keep your eyes passionate, the discussion's vibrant, and the ideas flowing. Take care. We'll see you real soon. But as we exit, I'd like to take a moment for everyone to reflect what 80 years of persecution of the modern era.